Okay, I think we're kind of on a roll with Wayside School Gets a Little Stranger because I want to know what's happening, and that's chapter 19, timeout. So let's see what's going to happen. Mrs. Zarves taught the class on the 19th story. Remember at the beginning, for those of you who don't remember the beginning, you're going to have to go back and listen to chapters 1 through 15 to figure it out. But there is no 19th story. And so that means that there is no Mrs. Zarves. But you already knew all that. But how do you explain the cow in her classroom? I would like to hear that explanation. Mrs. Zarves drew a triangle on the blackboard. A triangle has 3 sides, she said, and then pointed to each side. 1, 2, 3. And then she drew a square. A square has 4 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not going to draw it because I'm not. She walked around the cow to the other side of the board. She drew a pentagon, a hexagon, and a perfect heptagon. A heptagon, she said, has 7 sides. Mrs. Zarves was very good at drawing shapes. When most people try to draw heptagons, there's always one side that sticks out kind of weird. But Miss Zarves' heptagon was perfect. Every side was the same length. Every angle the same degree. It was a great talent, but nobody really appreciated her. Nobody appreciated anything she did. It was like they didn't even know she was there. She counted the sides of the heptagon. 1, 2, 3, 4. Moo, said the cow. Mrs. Zarves dropped her chalk. She glared at the cow. I hate this, she shouted. It was a brown cow with a white head. It's all right, Mrs. Zarves, said Virginia, her best student. I'll get the chalk for you. No, said Mrs. Zarves. Leave it where it is. The cow made me drop the chalk. The cow should pick it up. Her students gasped at her. I will not continue, said Mrs. Zarves, until that cow picks up the piece of chalk and draws an octagon on the board. I think you guys are smart enough to know that's not going to happen. But let's continue. She folded her arms across her chest. She stared at the cow and stamped her foot. Ray raised his hand. Yes, Ray, said Mrs. Zarves, arms still folded across her chest. Yeah. Cows can't pick up chalk, said Ray. Mrs. Zarves sighed. I know, she said, and I can't teach with a cow in my classroom. No one had ever seen Mrs. Zarves so upset. She usually had such a nice and pleasant disposition. It's okay, Mrs. Zarves, said Virginia. I don't mind the cow. You get used to it after a while, said Ray. What cow? Oh, that one. I forgot it was even here, said Nick. Mrs. Zarves smiled. She knew her students were trying to make her feel better. Oh, what nice kids. Other classrooms have goldfish or hamsters. It's really no different, said Virginia. No, said Mrs. Zarves. I won't have it. All my life I've tried to be accommodating. I've never been one to complain. And what has it gotten me? A cow. She shook her head. When I was a little girl, my friends never did what I wanted to do. I always had to do whatever they wanted to do. And my teacher never called on me in class. She always called on the other kids who just shouted. They just shouted out without raising their hands, and even though she wouldn't, she'd say, I won't call on you if you don't raise your hand, but then she always did anyway. And I was a good girl, and I never shouted out. And she always did things alphabetically, so I was always last. If there was time for me at all, and my parents were too busy for me. They were always dressing up and going out to fancy parties, and I had to tuck myself in at night and wish myself sweet dreams. She took a tissue out of her sleeve and she wiped a tear from her eye. Still, I always tried to keep a smile on my face. Well, not anymore. The days of walk all over Miss Zarves are finished. She threw open her classroom door. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, she says. What are you going to do? Asked Virginia. I'm going out there, said Mrs. Zarves, and I'm not coming back until I get some grease. She stepped outside. She decided that she was going to go straight to the top, so she headed down the stairs to the principal's office. Joey and Mauricia were coming up the stairs. Todd is uglier than stupid, said Mauricia. You're crazy, said Joy. He's stupider than ugly. Oh, teased Mauricia, I'm going to tell Todd you think he's cute. And Miss Zarves stepped in front of them. What are you children doing out of class? She asked. I didn't say he was cute, said Joy. He's just not as ugly as he is stupid. That means you think he's handsome, said Mauricia. Are you going to marry him? I asked you a question, said Mrs. Zarves. Or Miss Zarves. Ugh, gross, said Joy. I'm a teacher, said Miss Zarves. That means you're supposed to listen to me. Joy and Mauricia walked right past her. Miss Zarves sighed, and then she continued down to Mr. Kidswatter's office. She took a deep breath to steady her nerves, and she was just about ready to knock, but then she just changed her mind and marched right in. Hey, Kidswatter, I want to talk to you. The principal was busy making a rubber band ball. Yeah, don't even ask. Do you hear me? Said Miss Zarves. He opened his desk and he looked for some more rubber bands. If you don't answer me right now, said Miss Zarves, I am walking out of the door and I'm never coming back. Mr. K pressed the buzzer on his phone. Miss Knight, you need to order more rubber bands. That's it, said Miss Zarves. I'm leaving. Goodbye. I quit. She walked out of the school, took a deep breath of fresh air. Please don't go, Miss Zarves, said a voice behind her, and startled, she turned around. We need you, said a bald-headed man. He was standing between two other bald men. Just two other men. They might have had hair. I don't know. Both had black mustaches, and one carried a black attaché case. It's always important when they have an attaché case. It's like a briefcase, but I think more important. The bald man didn't have a mustache. Can you see me? Miss Zarves asked. Of course, said the bald man, and we appreciate all your hard work. You do? Said Miss Zarves. All three nodded sincerely. Miss Zarves was touched. I've been teaching for 30 years. And nobody has ever said that before, said Miss Zarves. Well, it's not easy being a teacher, said the bald man. I don't get any respect. People treat me like I'm a nobody, she says. It's not easy being a teacher, said the man with the attaché case. You have to work long hours for very little money. I've never gotten paid, said Miss Zarves, and this is the first time in 30 years I've even ever left the building. How'd she get her clothes? I don't know. It's not easy being a teacher, agreed the other man with the mustache. Even the book I'm reading to my class, said Miss Zarves, the author makes fun of the teachers. It's a tragedy, said the bald man. Then why do it, said Miss Zarves. Why teach anymore? I could quit. Nobody would care. The children need you, all three men agreed. Miss Zarves sighed. I like to teach, she said. I really do. I love the children. It's just... And she stopped, and she wiped her eyes. The man with the attaché case opened it. He took out a handkerchief and he handed it to Miss Zarves. "Thank you," she said, and she blew her nose on it. and then after blowing her nose, she gave it back to him. "Thank you," she said, and he placed it back in his attaché case. Could you at least get the cow out of my classroom?" she asked. The bald man smiled. "I'll see what I can do." Mrs. Arv smiled as she slowly shook her head, and then she turned and walked back into the building. And that's where we're going to stop. We're up to chapter 20. I'm probably going to catch you up on chapters 1 through 15 or 1 through 14 before we go to chapter 20. So, I read to you. Now you go read to somebody else. Okay, bye.